This is a demo of Unaric Voice for Microsoft Teams, the only native Microsoft Teams phone integration for Salesforce. I'll walk you through what a typical day looks like for teams that work primarily in Salesforce, handling inbound and outbound calls while using the Teams phone system you already run. That means you keep your existing team set up. Calls, outcomes, and follow-ups are captured directly in Salesforce without adding a separate telephony platform in the middle. Everything I'm going to show now happens inside Salesforce. Here's the Unaric panel showing the dial pad, My Team Status, Do Not Disturb, and Recent Calls. In a practical sense, it means an agent can answer the call, transfer it, and capture a note without leaving this page. And from an IT perspective, Team stays in control of calling and routing, so there's no duplicate configuration to maintain elsewhere. Okay, now I'm going to place Teams next to Salesforce briefly, so you can see both updating in real time. First, an important baseline. Presence and Do Not Disturb stay perfectly in sync. I'll set my status to busy in Teams, and back in Salesforce, you can see the status also updates here. And if I enable Do Not Disturb in Salesforce, Teams updates immediately. Then I'll disable it in Teams and Salesforce follows. So when someone's already on a call or has Do Not Disturb turned on, the next call routes past them to whoever's actually free. Now I'll go to the Teams Admin Center to show the call queue we're using. Here's the customer support queue, and here's the phone number assigned to it. From an IT perspective, your call queues remain configured and governed in Teams, using the same routing and policies you already manage there. With that set, let's go back to Salesforce and place a test inbound call. Okay, here it is. And this is coming into the same call queue number we just looked at in the Teams Admin Center. You can see it arrive in both places at once, the Unaric panel inside Salesforce on the left and the Teams incoming call pop up on the right. Before you answer, you can already see who's calling and which Teams call queue it came through. And because the number matches an existing contact, Salesforce opens the record automatically so you have all the relevant context in front of you, like related cases and recent call activity. I'll answer the call here in Salesforce. You'll notice the Teams incoming call pop-up clears on the right. That's because it's the same Teams call. When it's answered here, Teams immediately knows it's answered, so it stops ringing everywhere else. Now we're live, and the Unaric panel is controlling that Teams call from inside Salesforce. I still have all the call controls everyone recognizes from Teams. First, I'll put the caller on hold. You can see the hold timer running, so wait time is visible. You can resume the call, you can end the call, and you can mute the call. And if you need to transfer, you can do a blind transfer or a consulted transfer. For internal transfers, you can search your Microsoft 365 directory or type of phone number to dial an external number. And finally, the keypad is here if you need to enter digits during the call, for example, when you're navigating an IVR during an outbound call. During the call, I can capture notes directly. So when the call ends, the note's already there. The rep is able to move on to the next conversation instead of stopping to write up the last one. Now I'm going to place a second inbound call to show what happens when calls overlap. I'll answer it, and you'll see Amber Williams is automatically placed on hold. I'll type a quick note for this new incoming call too, so the rep never has to pick between the new call and the one they're already on. They have full control over which call they take, and nothing is missed. Now I'll switch back to Amber, and you'll see the notes I made are still there. If I flip back to John, his notes are there too. So even when calls overlap, each call keeps its own context, and you're not mixing information between callers. Now I'll end John's call. The call logs to his record automatically. That's the default, and it's the right place for most calls. You can see the note Send Quote is attached to it too. Now back to Amber. Her call was about a specific billing case, so while we're still on the call, I'll open that case. The Unaric panel picks it up in the related record list. One click of the pin, and this call is now attached to the case itself, not just her contact. When I end the call, the activity lands directly on the case with the note we made captured there. In this instance, the note says Case Resolved. So if the case is reassigned, the next person picks it up with full context, right where they need it. In the Recent tab, you can see your call history, including missed calls, so it's easy to spot what needs a follow-up. If I click the pencil icon here, it opens the call task behind that activity. And because this call came through a Teams call queue, you can see it listed here. Inside the task, you can see who handled the call. that it was inbound, and that it's completed. Now let's open the call task behind that activity, because this is what leaders use for visibility. Here you can see the call duration, hold duration, and the start and end times, captured automatically. And because this call came through a Teams call queue, you can see the called queue and which agent handled it. For supervisors, this makes it easier to spot patterns like long holds, repeated calls, or calls missing a documented next step. And for IT, it stays as standard Salesforce activity without having to reconcile data from another system. Every call pinned to a case or logged on a contact is now part of the data on this dashboard. Because every call and every note is captured automatically, the activity data on this dashboard doesn't depend on reps remembering to log. Supervisors get a complete picture of call volume and rep performance, and the numbers they're looking at match what actually happened. At the top, the headline metrics, total calls, answered versus missed, and the inbound/outbound split. Scrolling down, the same data broken out by Teams call queue. For IT, the reporting mirrors the queues you manage in the Teams admin center, so there's no separate mapping to maintain. Next, the same views at the agent level. Who's taking calls, how long they're spending on the phone, their answered rate, and their mix of inbound and outbound, including how they perform on each queue they cover. This is where supervisors spot coaching moments, an agent missing a disproportionate share of calls, or a workload that's skewed against the team average. Further down, the operational picture. How calls are distributed by duration, when the busy hours actually are, and whether missed calls are falling inside office hours or outside of them. And because these aren't static reports, you can click any figure to drill into the calls behind it. Here, the missed calls open up as a detailed list with the actual phone numbers. From there, you can return the call directly. The same Unaric panel picks it up, and the call goes out through Teams like any other. So the insight and the follow-up happen in the same place. We've seen inbound calling, so now let's take a look at how outbound works in Salesforce. First, from a list view, I'll click the phone icon next to the contact's name, and the call starts right away. Second, from the record itself, I'll open John Smith and click the phone number so it's the usual click-to-dial flow reps are used to. That starts the call using the same Unaric panel, so outbound activity is captured the same way as inbound. For sales leaders, that means call activity and notes show up consistently on the Salesforce record for follow-up, pipeline coverage, and coaching. To recap, Teams remains the phone system, and Salesforce is where the work happens. Before you answer a call, the right record opens, and while it's happening, the agent can control the call and capture notes without leaving the page. When the call ends, the activity is written back to the record for follow-up and reporting. And on the IT side, Teams remains where you manage numbers, queues, routing, and policies. Fundamentally, you're not duplicating telephony setup in another system. You're bringing Teams calling into Salesforce. If you have any questions or you'd like to learn more, please get in touch.